Hello everyone, this is Big Entertainment and we are back again, and here now we have another video for you, and this will be a review of The Walking Dead Season 11 premiere episode titled Archaeon Part 1. Now there will be spoilers in this review, so if you haven't yet caught up with all the episodes from the previous seasons, I advise you to go away, catch up and then come back to this overall review. You can also catch up on my previous coverage of The Walking Dead within the channel as well. Now Season 11 marks the final season of the long running show. It will now consist of 22 episodes, and just to recap on the events from the previous season, we reached the conclusion of the Whisperer War with the group defeating the massive horde of zombies when they were all walking off the edge of the cliff. We caught up with a stranded Connie who got separated from the group, and we saw Eugene, Ezekiel, Yumiko and Princess get surrounded by these white armoured soldiers, hinting at the next big story arc within the Commonwealth and the New World Order. Now, we also got, oddly enough, 6 additional episodes to the 10th season shortly after, which for the most part for me were very inconsequential and unnecessary. The only real noteworthy events were seeing the return of Maggie and the eventual clash with Negan, which will be built up right throughout this current season. We had one episode with Princess being captured with the others, but it proved to be much more of a cop-out as most of the episode was her hallucinating certain events. And the final episode concentrated on Negan's backstory with the tragic last days of his wife, showing the origins of him beginning to lead the Saviours. Now, the performances during that episode were amazing, but it still didn't feel relevant enough in terms of the actual events. So going into this current episode of the 11th season, and overall I feel it was a very decent to good episode. We essentially got a few good scenes of atmosphere and tension. You can straight away notice the upgrade in terms of budget and the screen resolution and the cinematography as well, and it all looks very impressive for the most part, making some action very gripping and intense at times. And we also got an insight into the Commonwealth and also some intense conflicts between certain characters. The episode itself opened up with a very tense encounter with the group infiltrating a warehouse amongst some sleeping or dormant zombies. Now, I believe I've never seen that before, but correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but that was very weird because as far as I know, zombies are never dormant or they never sleep. They're always wandering around, they're always active. So that was a bit of a confusing moment, but the group had to get some major supplies and they were abseiling out of the warehouse, but then all of a sudden the rope starts to snap and Daryl cuts his arm, which we saw the blood from his arm drip down to a zombie, awaken it. Again, I've never seen that previously before, the fact that a blood can awaken a zombie, so they were kind of changing the parameters a bit in just to escalate the tension. But overall, it was a good action sequence where we see all of the group fighting the zombies as they were surrounded them, lots of shooting and killing them as well and stabbing them and shooting arrows from above the building. Again, it raised the question, why didn't they do that in the first place? It would have been far safer to kill all the zombies while they were lying there dormant overall. But as usual with this show, they don't normally adapt common sense when they are doing their various activities, but it still was a good sequence overall. And then we see the team returning to Alexandria, and we learn early on that they're really struggling low on food and supplies. Maggie suggests that they go back to Meridian, where her group used to be, and she tells of how it got destroyed, referring back to the first additional episode titled Home Sweet Home, where they made reference to the group of the Reapers and where her and Daryl encountered one of them. We later on go to the next big scene where we see the group struggling to find for supplies, and they're caught in a big thunderstorm, and they go into a subway. We of course get revisions of that underlying tension between Negan and Maggie and Daryl, of course, and this will really come to a halt not only throughout this episode but also throughout the whole entire season. And again, we get good atmospherics and tones throughout, good visual shots of the thunderstorm, really ramping up that sense of cinematic tension as I mentioned before. We also catch up with Eugene, Yumiko, Princess and Ezekiel, and we see them getting interrogated by the various auditors of the Commonwealth, and the group are under the first level of inspection, and they were asking them really all of these random questions from their education, their last routine physical, whether they've been fascinated, and really some of these questions you were asking yourself, what was the point in a zombie apocalypse? Why are we worried about their date of birth or where they come from? But I'm sure we will get various reference to that later on throughout this season. Ezekiel later on confronts this black soldier who's in a red costume, We assume that he's one of the more senior members of the Commonwealth group. Why is he in red when all the others are detailed in white costumes? So again, we'll find that out later on. Now, we do get some insight later on with some prisoners. Some state that they've been captured for over 4 months or 8 months. And we see that Princess has been studying the guard patterns. She noticed the fact that 2 of them have been having sex, and she details when they take off their costumes. So a bit implausible, but fair enough, we'll just roll along with that. And of course, this gives them the idea to take the costumes from them, and under the guise of Ezekiel and Princess being captured, Yumiko and Eugene are in the white costumes, and they go forward and they discover the wall of the lost, and this is photos of loved ones. I assume they've either been captured or killed, and maybe this is the whole part of the Commonwealth doing research on people as they've been taking them into their containment. And just about as they're about to escape, Yumiko looks at the wall and she sees it looks like a note from her sister asking her to find Yumiko. So this gives the assumption that Yumiko's sister is indeed within the camp, and that's why Yumiko decides to stay. So we will get further development of that throughout the rest of the season. We later on go back to the group within the subway, and Negan starts to rightly question why they're down there. They could be walking to a trap. We see these scenes where they're looking at these zombies and they're all covered up in plastic bags. One kid gets attacked by this big hulking zombie and he gets saved by Negan overall. And then we get a massive confrontation where Negan really questions the command of Maggie. He raises the point that he believes that they were all brought down there so Maggie could kill Negan, and that his presence is affecting her leadership, and he challenges her right there, raising the issue with Glenn, of course. We all know what happened there. Again, just intensifying the confrontation and tension between the two, and Maggie suddenly holds him at gunpoint, and she notes that she basically would like to keep him, and she's only being resisted because she cares more about the group. So I do question whether Negan was doing it deliberately, because he knows that ever since Maggie's return, there will be some scenario in the future where Maggie confronts him and tries to kill him. So maybe he was trying to rush the development along. He was very impatient about always having to worry about looking over his shoulder in terms of Maggie. So that's what I think this was in terms of its overall confrontation. And developments develop even further when all of a sudden the zombies start to awaken and the group find themselves having to escape. We see Daryl's dog go into a tunnel, so he chases after him, separating him from the group yet again. So again, we get very much tense action sequences as the group are trying to escape, and then it all builds to a climax where we see Maggie trying to climb up a wall. She's struggling, there's a zombie grabbing at her feet, and at the last moment Negan appears and he sees Maggie struggling. Maggie asks him to rescue her, but then Negan walks away, and that's the cliffhanger moment for the first episode. So again, just emphasising very much the conflict between Maggie and Negan. Now, of course, we all know Maggie will survive, but what will happen when she reconnects with the group and then she tells them that Negan left her to die amongst the zombies? So again, I think this season very much so or the first arc of the season will be about the confrontation between Maggie and Negan, and will build up some resolution in the long point. Now, I know we all love Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Negan overall, and the show has done a lot, certainly in the last 2 seasons, to try and redeem him in some sense of the word, but I'm still not comfortable overall with the fact that people are very much trying to make him this anti-hero, and I think when we come to the series resolution overall, Maggie has to kill Negan in some capacity, way, shape or form, or whether they want to build Negan making a no-pull sacrifice. Either narrative, I'm pretty sure Negan will die at the end of this season, so we'll wait and see what happens in the future overall. So going forward, we will get far more hints in terms of the New World Order and the Commonwealth, and we'll see whether the current bands can escape, whether Yumiko will reunite with her sister or find out her fate, what happened. So overall, this episode I feel left a lot of interesting story arcs and narratives to keep us interested for the very long 22 episode run for overall its final season. So that's my overall thoughts and feelings on the opening premiere episode of The Walking Dead season 11. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think that they will be able to provide a satisfactory conclusion to the series having an extended run of 22 episodes? How do you feel events will play out in the long run overall? Who do you think will survive? Who do you think will die? And how do you think they will conclude the series in comparison to how the comic book ended its run overall? Let me know what you think in the comments. Please also hit and like the subscription and notification buttons so I can provide you with more high quality content like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, stay safe distances, and I will see you very, very soon.